he went to the media platform to inform South Africa publicly of gossip. And we must also come here and congregate and engage in gossip. Because if we cannot deal with facts, then we're gossiping. And we're going to be part of, he said, that happened, it looks like pink, you know, it's our however red. So, Chair, I really need your guidance. If this is going to be a matter of, when he went to media, he knew he is engaged in a process of law enforcement and investigation. That's well and good. But once you start touching the matter of public funds, which are appropriated and disbursed at this platform, you then invited us. And upon inviting us, we're calling you to come here at this public platform, which is Parliament, to account for what that which you have said. Now you don't want to say what you were saying. And all of a sudden now it is the issues of investigations. The question becomes, Mr. Dire, are you willing to just answer us as to who are the people that are involved? Because we're not talking about merits. We're not dealing with any particular and facts. We're still going to ask questions about facts. Are you willing to participate in the parliamentary process of accountability? And do you believe in accountability? A person who has led a very important state-owned entity which is falling apart, by the way. So are you willing to work with us and give us the information we're looking for, or are you not willing to do that?
Honourable Mente, good morning. Yes, I'm absolutely willing to cooperate with SCOPA, and that is why I voluntarily accepted the invitation from the committee to come and share with you to answer questions that were raised, as the Honourable Chair said, to investigate the potential misuse of public funds to improve the functioning of SCOPA. Again, the matters that are at play here are of significant gravity. And as I've explained before, compromising myself, exposing myself is not something that I'm prepared to do in the current platform. I have fully cooperated with law enforcement authorities. I have fully made available all of the information at my disposal to them. We have seen, as I've listed before, arrests. We have seen interventions in disrupting these organized crime activities. And I think these events are important pieces of corroborative evidence that suggests that the information provided to law enforcement authority has merit, has value, and was in fact acted upon. And I think that if we now focus on names, then for the reasons that I have now repeatedly enumerated, based on the legal advice that I've received, it would be inappropriate of me to disclose the information that you ask. It is not because I don't want to cooperate. I think the fact that I'm here and that I am engaging with the committee should be sufficient evidence that I am cooperating, the fact that I'm clearly cooperating with law enforcement authorities, then I cannot be put in a position where I will be contravening the other principles of law as it relates to potentially defeating the ends of justice. And for that, Honourable Chair, I again respectfully wish to direct the committee to engage with the Hawks and to ask them what the progress is with their investigation, because I think that this is the way to ensure that there is public accountability. At a certain point in time, these matters are handed over to law enforcement. It then becomes within their purview to carry out the investigations. There's not much that I can do as a private citizen to ensure that we can continue these investigations. That's now in the hands of the police. Thank you.
Well, in that case, Chair, we need not to waste time and invoke a process and a mechanism that is going to allow Mr. de Ruyter to give us information. Because right now, in terms of our powers and privileges, you are coming here and you are kind of misleading Parliament. Because when you submitted your report, and when you responded to the letters of the chair, you said you are coming here to help us deal with the problem which South Africa is facing at Eskom. Now you are unable to do that. Therefore, Chair, I think you need to engage a process of invoking a mechanism which is going to force answers out of Mr. de Ruyter. Parliament has got that in its disposal, and that should start today. But in me checking if ever this one can be answered correctly, and if you fail to answer that one, then there's no need for me to continue. You are making a point under 2.2 of your submission. And that point talks to cartels. And this matter of cartels have been in the public domain for a period of time now. But what's most important here, these cartels are led by a presidential cartel. Please unpack a presidential cartel. What is a presidential cartel? When you say the presidential cartel predominantly operate in Matla, and it's got a number of companies under its umbrella. Unpack that for us.
Honourable Mente, I think that the name of this cartel is something that, as far as I know, is a name that the members of the cartel have come up with. I'm not aware that it's got any significance that attaches to anybody related to the presidency. I think this is a name that they've chosen. Up until recently, when these allegations became public, the members of the presidential cartel had a fairly lively presence on social media. They made a number of statements saying things like, thanks to coal, we can shower in champagne, and so forth. And these individuals, it appears, acted with a fair amount of impunity when it came to publicizing their activities and what they were up to. And the fact that they have now, since these allegations were made public, desisted from saying anything further is probably a very good indication that they made aware that they exposed themselves by going onto social media. And part of my reluctance to share too much information is, of course, that investigations into these individuals are continuing, and that there are, as I'm sure members of this committee know, significant security risks that attach to it. There are numerous murders that take place in Mpumalanga related to crime, and having been exposed once, I am very reluctant to put myself in that position again. So I think that the presidential cartel is documented. They call themselves that. It's not a name that I've come up with. So again, requesting law enforcement to provide further information on this, which I'm sure they will have obtained by now, would be the useful way forward.
Did this particular minister or senior official instruct you to give business to that specialized syndicate? And did you comply to that?
Sorry, Honorable Mente, could you please just repeat that question?
Within this syndicate or these cartels, were you at any point given an instruction to give them business or to allow them to do those procurements they were doing, and you complied with such an instruction?
No, I was given no instruction, and no, I did not comply with any such instruction.
So the issue of cartels is not a fact.
I'm not sure how you can derive, Honorable Mente, with respect to that conclusion from the answer that I've given. The fact that there was no instruction given by a political principal to direct business to a particular cartel does not mean that that cartel is not in existence and is not operating. I don't think the one follows from the other.
Okay, let me put it differently. The report on cartels, did you verify it yourself? Do you know for a fact that there are cartels existing in Eskom space? And for how long were you aware of that?
The allegation around cartels came to my attention in April, May of last year. And as a consequence, I then informed, as I've said, the South African Police Services, the SSA was informed, as well as the chairman of the Eskom board at the time, Professor Makoba, as well as my political principals, the shareholder department at DPE. So when I became aware of this, I brought it to the attention of the relevant authorities, and based on what I've seen, I have a good reason to believe that these cartels are in fact in existence, and that they do operate within Mpumalanga, and that they do extract by various criminal practices money from Eskom, as I've indicated in my submission.
And with the information that you say you passed over to law enforcement pertaining to that, did you get any joy, or is there any progress which is productive in terms of curbing it, if it exists, Or are you getting any joy in establishing if this fact indeed is there? And that procurement process, which you have outlined here, I think it's about 2 pages of you outlining the system in which they operate. Is this system that you have outlined here been established? Is it confirmed by law enforcement? What's the progress so far?
Thank you, Honourable Mente. Yeah, I think we have seen progress, which I've referred to earlier. The fact that there have been at least 43 arrests at various Eskom installations. You will have seen a media report, for example, of the arrest of 2 Eskom employees and a contractor by a specialized unit of the police with some 300,000 rands worth of fuel oil that was not discharged but corruptly certified as having been delivered. That report came out, I think, last week sometime. So there is progress. I think we have seen evidence that now that these sites where the coal is stolen, that they are being curtailed, that we are seeing some progress being made in the activities of these organized crime syndicates that operate in Mpumalanga. And I sincerely hope that this process continues because they have a severe negative impact on the ability of Eskom to operate its power stations. So to answer your question, I think that following the reporting of these matters to the South African Police Services, we have seen actions being taken, and one would hope that this continues and that they are also followed by successful prosecutions and prison sentences as appropriate once those individuals are in fact convicted. Thank you.
So how many bodies are dealing with this? Is SAPS, is there any other person who's dealing with that? Because we need to summon those people to come here and tell us what's happening with the cartels and Eskom. Shed a light. How many bodies did you report to? When? And who are they?
As I've indicated, Honourable Mente, I have reported this to the South African Police Services, and of course that includes the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, the Hawks. I have also reported this and shared it with the State Security Agency, and they are aware of it. And those are the entities that I think are charged with law enforcement in South Africa. So those are the entities that I'm aware of that play a role in this regard, and that are investigating and that are taking action as they deem appropriate with the information at their disposal.
And you have sworn statements that you have provided to those bodies?
I have, as required by Section 34, reported the matter. What I anticipate the progress or the process will be going forward will be that they will now investigate these reports, and then to the extent that they require me to make a sworn statement or provide them with a sworn affidavit, then they will approach me to do so. I have not yet been approached by them to make such a sworn statement. So that's the current state of play. I think it's again in the hands of the Hawks and of the police services to engage me. I'm more than willing and ready to assist them in their investigations.
One second, Roman. Mr. Ruyter, are you indicating that since this matter was brought to the attention of SSA Hawks in or around June, July 2022, you have not had the opportunity to interact with them, or they've not interacted with you since? Because the question then becomes, are there case numbers when you reported this, or you solely relied on the Section 34 reporting?
No, I have not, because of the general nature. Excuse me,
proceed, the general, proceed because of the general nature
of the criminal activity and the fact that there is organized crime that I suspect is involved in this. It is very difficult to do what is typically the case with a single Mr. X stole 7 tons of coal from power station Y on such and such a date. That is not the nature of the information that is provided. The information that is provided is of a nature that illustrates that there is, as I've said, at least 4 syndicates operating in Mpumalanga at Eskom power stations, and they are engaged allegedly, and I think we've got very good reason to suspect that it's true, in various criminal activities. And this pattern of criminal activities has been reported. You will understand that to report a specific crime, you first have to have evidence that such a crime is committed. But when an organization has been so penetrated by criminals as Eskom, it is really the job of law enforcement to establish the extent of the racketeering that is involved. And this is done by means of the gathering of crime intelligence and by ensuring that appropriate preventative steps can be taken. Again, to emphasize, I have engaged with the police on the very highest level, and the investigation, as I understand it, is not focusing on isolated incidents, because then the people who are brought to book will be the so-called runners, the lower level individuals who are not the people behind the crimes. And that is why, as far as I understand, this is being looked at as a racketeering investigations as contemplated by BRECA.
You can proceed.
This is now very interesting, because you call law enforcement and any other body to kind of, for lack of a better word, whistle blowing, and you are not asked for a statement, but they kickstart an investigation and arrest people. I'm beginning to wonder who's the main complainant. You perhaps know if the state is the main complainant, through who, and who are the main witnesses that have provided sworn statements. Or perhaps in Eskom, are there any other senior officials that have provided sworn statements to that effect of you blowing a whistle?
Honorable Chair, I'm not an expert on criminal law, but as far as I understand, the South African Police Services are not only required to investigate, or are not limited to investigation once they have received a complaint, they also can proactively gather intelligence information to prevent crime and to ensure that they can conduct investigations. As I've stated before, my legal team have complied on my behalf with my Section 34 of PRECA obligations. And my focus has been on, or had been rather, on managing Eskom. I certainly did not see it as my job to intervene or interfere in policing activities. I leave that to the National Police Commissioner and his no doubt very capable staff to ensure that we can investigate these activities adequately. Thank you.
That's exactly a problem, Mr. Ruyter. You are managing the biggest entity of this country. You blow a whistle, you congregate law enforcement bodies, you report to them, then you don't follow up because it's none of your business. How are you running a business wherein money is flowing out and not flowing out in a manner in which is designed by law? It's flowing out, and you know through your suspicions and some other ways that you have established that it's a fact, money is being stolen through procurement. But then you have no interest of knowing how far are the cases. You have no interest of knowing who else has been interviewed. It's very interesting. You are saying ever since you called and met with the law enforcement on the 4th of June 2022 to make them aware of any corruption that you have picked up in the entity, you have never followed up with the law enforcement since then until the SONA speech. Is that what you are saying?
No, that is not what I'm saying, Honourable Mente. I think what I am saying is that according to my understanding, the investigations are ongoing, that I have been cooperating and that I am prepared to cooperate fully with law enforcement in this regard. In my previous appearances at SCOPA, you may recall that we continuously reported as Eskom that there had been a number of cases that had been lodged with various police stations throughout the country. And we were, I think, fairly frank in sharing with the committee the fact that we had little success in ensuring that these cases were fully investigated and that they were adequately followed up and eventually prosecuted. And this is one of the major issues that I think needs to be addressed, is the efficiency of the entire criminal justice system in order to ensure that individuals who engage in criminal activity anywhere, but in particular in this instance at Eskom, that they are apprehended and that they can be successfully prosecuted, and that the necessary punishment should be meted out to them. So again, it's not my job to follow up with the police. That is the job of the National Police Commissioner. And I have consistently and continuously engaged with senior police officials, and I have made available the information that I've got, but it's not my job to, and it was not my job as Chief Executive of Eskom to do the work of the police. That was never my intention. Thank you.
That's why we're sitting in the darkness. You allowed criminality to continue with impunity. Because you can't report a case and then not follow it up. Then wait for social media and any other public platform to inform you if there is any progress in the investigation that you have started. Now, Mr. Director, I want to check with you if you believe in accountability. And by the time you were leading Eskom, you were willing and complying to the laws that were guiding you and governing Eskom and your position. Now tell us, did you comply at any point with the illegal and unlawful instructions given to you by this so-called senior manager or senior politician? And at the time they gave you those unlawful instructions, why didn't you report to Parliament that I'm being given unlawful instructions, thus making my job difficult in uprooting corruption and building Eskom properly?
Okay. I did not manage to catch all of the Honourable Mente's question, but I'll try and respond to the gist of what I think the Honourable Mente said.
They put it to you again so that we can, so she's, let it put it to you again. Honourable Mente, and then if you can round it up and then we'll come back. So she'll put it to you again.
All right. Mr. Director, if you believe in accountability and you respected all the laws that are governing Eskom, which were governing you during your tenure, by the time you were given these unlawful and illegal instructions, did you comply with them? And why did you not report to Parliament that there are politicians or senior officials that are forcing you or your officials to comply with unlawful instructions, thus giving away to corruption and killing Eskom? Hence, we're sitting in the dark. Why did you not report that to Parliament at the time as well?
Honourable Mente, I think that there may be a misapprehension here in your question. Clearly, I do believe in accountability, and I think that everything that I've done hopefully is contributed to demonstrating that. I never made the allegation that I received any unlawful instructions. That is not how the organized crime is perpetrated. There is not a directive that comes from a senior politician to Eskom that says you have to facilitate the theft of money or the diversion of funds in an unlawful manner. The way that the organized crime works is that there is a network of people, some of them regrettably Eskom employees, who collude with criminals to ensure that through fraudulent activity they can extract money from Eskom and do so